And what is up, esports fans? Welcome back to another day of the PCS Summer 2021. I am Pyrotechnics, he is Clement Chu, and we have got a fantastic set of games on the docket for you today. But before we get into the action, I'd like to take a moment to thank our wonderful sponsors for helping make the PCS possible. They are CTBC Bank, China Airlines, and Chunghwa Telecom. Clement, good to see you. How is it going, man?
I'm feeling great. I've survived the typhoon. Everything is doing swell, and we have took our first foray onto 11.14. It seems like the PCS has caught up with the LEC, the LCK, most of these other leagues that are on the newest patch as well.
Yeah, we've seen some interesting stuff. Of course, our league is always a little bit different. They like to pick some of their favorites, but they have been picking up a lot of the powerful choices on 11.14. And in particular, just really finding a few idiosyncrasies that I find interesting. I think, like, even though LeBlanc, for instance, has been a very popular pick, hasn't quite been 100% presence like it has for us. We'll talk about that in a little bit, though, because here's yesterday's results, and there were some shockers. It all started off with Boom Esports pulling off the upset over Megabank Beyond Gaming in a really, honestly, masterclass performance. Later on down the line, despite the fact that they lose to PSG Talon, they nearly took it all the way. A 49-minute nail-biter of a game. And if not for a couple of mistakes, I think that game goes very differently.
Whew, yesterday, if I had to give an MVP out, it would definitely go to Ruby. He played LeBlanc both times, and he was absolutely spectacular on them. Weaving and popping, diving out on these all different sort of engages from PSG, still finding the kills. And honestly, Boom Esports should have ended the day with a 2-0 against the two best teams in the PCS. Unfortunately, they're not able to quite pull it out in the last one, but color me impressed. Boom Esports definitely deserve to be in the top 4 in my mind, even over J-Team.
And they managed to do exactly that. As you take a look at their standings with one extra game played and one extra win, they do manage to sit in that top 4 column alongside PSG Talon, Machi Esports, and Megabank Beyond Gaming, who fall down one more, with Machi really picking up steam. And it's going to be really exciting to see those two teams face off. Of course, J-Team coming in just after them, as well as Hong Kong Attitude. And then the bottom 4, of course, Berjaya Dragons and Impunity Esports, both at 2 and 6. And they will, of course, be facing off a little bit down the line. Alpha and Liab, between them, only one win. Liab still hunting for their first, as the first round robin, I should say, is coming to a close.
Oh, and they have a tough job ahead of them. If they want to find a win on the first round robin, they have to do it against Beyond Gaming coming up with a vengeance after they lost to Boom Esports. So really tough calling for them, but hopefully they can pull through. We're going to get a glimpse at today's schedule. I think the highlight matchup definitely has to be the 4th one on the day. Machi Esports going up against Megabank Beyond Gaming. We have seen in the past, it really has come down to the bot lane difference that usually sends it over in Beyond Gaming's favor. But so far, Jimian and Lee Kai have been looking like the better solo laners this split.
Absolutely. For Boom Esports, certainly on a bit of a hot streak themselves to have taken down Megabank Beyond Gaming. They follow that matchup against with Machi and Beyond with Berjaya Dragons later on down the line. Of course, we'll close with Hong Kong Attitude taking on PSG Talon. I think as far as other games go, that should be interesting to watch too. I'm looking forward to our first matchup tonight, J-Team versus Impunity. And let's take a look at the competitors. J-Team got to play their game yesterday against Hong Kong Attitude. They made it look relatively easy. There they are on the screen. Rest in the top side, Hana in the jungle, Mission in mid, Lilvi and Woody on the bottom side of the map. And I think this is a team that has found a solid groove. They're not quite top 4 just yet, or at least anymore, I should say, due to the rise of Boom Esports, but they are working their way up.
Yeah, I think this team is still holding on to its strengths very, very well. If you look at the stats, they are one of our best early game teams, just behind Machi and PSG for that matter. And the pillar really is Rest in the top lane, which also makes it really interesting in this matchup because the other best laner on the enemy team from Impunity is Top King. They are going to be fighting in the same lane against each other. And 11.14 so far in terms of the champion pool, I do actually like what Top King has brought into the table. He's got that Lucian, he's got Aurelia and Tom Kench, all these high priority picks on the patch.
He couldn't even wait for 11-14 to drop before he started playing these high priority picks. Wasn't able to find wins on them until yesterday. The Lucian was just beautiful. He was unloading full channels of culling just on everybody on the opposite side, managing to pick up that win. And critically, Impunity, maybe it's a little early to say they got the swagger back, but they certainly snapped a losing streak to come back in, and now at 2 and 6, they'll look to close out the round robin on a W and at least get their way back up the standings as we continue with the summer split.
They had a very dominating game yesterday against Liab, and I think what really broke the trend is that they drafted fully for the early game. Every single champion that they selected on the red side was a counter pick to the counterpart from Liab, and they were able to win from start to finish. This is something we haven't really seen from Impunity. They typically have drafted more for late game, especially scaling for Blaze and Moonblack. Well, I shouldn't say scaling for Moonblack, he just plays whatever champions he has. But that has been the big hurdle for Impunity. You know, as we mentioned a lot of times, Impunity statistically is the worst team of the PCS this split. So up against J-Team, the first thing that they have to go through is that pre-15 minute. So I want to see how they draft. There's two ways they can take it. They can go super aggressive into the early game, try to have a good base to move forward, or they can just completely scuttle the early game and try to go for late game. So that's going to be the big difference maker that I want to see in the drafting phase. But for now, let's take a look at the mid lane. I think hands down, you have to say that Mission is going to have a sizable advantage going into this one. Moonblack, very transparent on what his champion picks actually are, and even though he's picked a Silas and LeBlanc, they haven't really been popping out as much. I think he had a good LeBlanc performance yesterday, but compared to someone like Mission, who I think is much more adept on multiple champions, it is going to be quite a difficult task for Moonblack to come out of this lane ahead. I think he is going to have to rely quite heavily on his sort of creative picks, I should say, to get him through into the mid game.
We'll have to see if he's forced onto one of them, or at least if he decides to opt for it, because I liked what we saw yesterday out of the Impunity draft. As you mentioned, really going for the early game seemed uncharacteristic, but it worked out, and Moonblack, you know, takes a second try at LeBlanc. This time it works out for him. Will he get the chance to do it again? We'll find out as we enter picks and bans. Really find this matchup in the mid lane actually really interesting, Clement. We've got two mid laners who really would much prefer to play the mages, but the difference is Mission has a wealth more experience going back years and feels comfortable enough, even in a meta that maybe isn't his preference.
Yeah, exactly, and I think Mission is totally fine with picking up things like the LeBlanc or the Lucian for himself very early on, even though his mages are probably what he is more known for. J-Team going into this draft might be going for the Renekton first. I think this is a good pickup. It's very defensive against someone like Top King, who honestly has a wealth of champions. He's great on these counter picks. And if we look at the champion pool right now, you know, he still has that Tahm Kench or that Lucian to really go for, and Impunity is on the red side. We did see that Impunity in their last draft specifically did hold on to the counter pick for Top King until the very last one, allow himself to get a good matchup and to drag Impunity along to get going early. Another thing is that Epic has been our Trundle main. He really likes this champion. We've seen 3 games of him already, and this will be his 4th. Nobody else is really picking Trundle in high volume, but he's such a good duelist, and I think for steadying Impunity and getting into the mid game, it's going to be a very crucial pick. So I guess we get the answer right off the bat. Impunity, they have switched gears. It's not just a stomp on Liab thing. They are going to commit quite heavily to an early game centric composition.
Yep, and one that kind of has the hallmarks of their own flavor and preference. You talked about Epic's Trundle. You know, definitely one of those examples of the idiosyncrasies here in the PCS. Just a number of these players that will prefer a couple of champions that are a little bit outside of what's considered to be like your S tier or even A tier picks, but they make them work in a number of situations. Trundle hasn't had a high priority globally when it comes to patch 11.14, but here in the PCS, he's definitely shown up a bit. J-Team, on the other hand, are definitely focused on those high-tier power picks. You got the Xin Zhao coming out quickly for Hana. Not the first time he's played that, and Mission, of course, snaps up the LeBlanc. We'll have to see if maybe we see that Lissandra counter. It could come in. And there is a Jhin for Lil V. I like what I see here.
Yeah, this is a super fun champion. You know, usually Vars will bully out most of the shorter range champions. Even guys like Kalista have a pretty hard time against him. But if you can counter snipe him with the Jhin, then you don't really have to go into range against the Vars. So I like this idea coming out here. Both of these bot lanes, I don't really expect a lot of action to be happening early on. J-Team drafting for mid jungle right off the bat. And we have to talk about this LeBlanc pick. This has been the rising star on week 3. Sure, Xiaotu and Rumi didn't find wins on it yesterday, but their individual performances definitely showcase why it's such an important champion. And, you know, for a lot of teams, it's not really viable for their mid laners to go and select things like Lissandra for themselves. a lot of times when you have your mid laner picking utility for the late game, that's actually more of a detriment than the counter pick itself to LeBlanc. So we have been seeing this sort of draft strategy come out for multiple teams yesterday, and it continues today. With Akali and Nocturne sort of out of the mid lane roster pool right now, LeBlanc has really risen to the forefront.
And it's interesting, too. It's certainly a champion that has shown up, I think it's fair to say, on 11.14 worldwide has been extremely popular with mixed amounts of success. But it's been, so far on this patch, picked every single game, or, banned at least once against, I can't remember the team who actually banned it out. But it's just shown up every time. So clearly it is the new hotness here, as it is everywhere else. Now into the next phase of bans, we have the Thresh remove the Jace by Impunity, and they will focus on removing a LeBlanc counter in the Lissandra, following up with the Renekton. That was flashed a little bit earlier. Everybody, thinking, Top King, we're going to ban away the Renekton. Why not? There will be that Camille picked up quickly, though, and this shouldn't be hidden unless there's some Moonblack shenanigans potentially going on with a bit of a swippy swap.
This is pretty interesting. Impunity do have a chance to actually counterpick for Top King, but they're saying with the Renekton off the table, we're pretty sure that there isn't going to be a counterpick coming out on the side of Rest. I don't think Rest is a big Fiora player. That's typically what you would be looking for as a counter to the Camille if you wanted to play a split push oriented game. So this is Rest's chance to prove him wrong. Does Rest actually have the Fiora in his pocket? Is he willing to go for a Jax? Or, okay, I guess he's going to get caught out here if he does go for this. Let's see.
We'll have to see. I mean, the Camille was a takeaway, right? It's one of his most played champions. Now, we have seen this matchup. Oh, wait a second. As the Fiora gets hovered and they're holding on it.
Come on, Russ.
We might see something a little different this time.
Salt.
Oh, my goodness. Last second switch up to the Gangplank. Okay, so a little more global pressure. I'm looking at this comp here, Clement. I feel like this is pretty much a J-Team pick comp.
Yeah, it's a really nice one, and it has that old timer combo between the Cannon Barrage and the Curtain.
Moonblack.
What is it called? I can't remember Jin's ultimate. Yeah, Curtain Call.
Curtain Call.
You can tag people with the R and then use your Curtain Call directly, which is a very strong combination and a captivating audience to catch people out, and also put a bit of damage on them for the execute. So it's a very long range, easy to execute composition. And then you have your front line, which is Xin Zhao and LeBlanc putting people low HP. You finish off with Lil V sniping from a distance, and it just allows you to make these two-man plays, but with the rest of the team contributing as well. On the meantime, Impunity have gone for another, I would say, Season 8 combination, Camille and Galio as well. So very strong pick composition, very good in the front line. And, both of these team comps, I would say they operate very similarly, but with a little bit of a different flavor in terms of their front line. You have a bit more burst damage on the side for J-Team, and a little bit more tankiness on the side with the Cannonball comp between Camille and Galio coming out from Impunity.
Right, yeah, and it does seem like it's kind of gone back into the Moonblack repertoire of like, okay, well, what can I play when the Blanc's not on the table? What am I going to be able to do to set my team up for success? It didn't find it last time around, but Impunity had been on a bit of a skid. I feel like this is definitely a more cohesive composition for them. So it's interesting we have pick versus pick. I feel like this is one of those games that's going to teeter-totter around for a little while.
I'm actually really sad that Rest backed out of the challenge there. I like Top King was like, I could counterpick you, but I know you're not going to... You don't play Fiora, so I'm just going to snap up the Camille. And Rest hovered the Fiora. He was like, actually, I do play Fiora. I might pick it. And then he backs out and plays Gameplay. Which I'm like,
He did not accept the grand challenge, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And we haven't really seen Fiora find a lot of success. It really has only come out as like that answer to a Camille, I think, here in the PCS. But I kind of wonder what's going to happen, because these two top laners definitely are very skilled. I think Top King probably puts a lot more, has a lot more pressure from his team to really succeed, but he was set up very successfully yesterday. I want to see if they can do it again. There's a really good amount of split push. There's some global pressure from both teams here. I think we are in for a very explosive amount of skirmishes.
Yeah, and I think the big point that we have to pay attention to is whether if Moonblack and Epic, technically they should have a lead here, but can they actually control Mishit and Hana's movements across the map? That's going to be the most important viewing point for me. I think neither of these side lanes are going to be particularly explosive. There will be some trades back and forth, but they're not going to be particularly lethal. So it's mainly going to be about mid-jungle control from these two teams. And, I actually think that Impunity have a fair shot here. Galio plus Trundle is a very powerful combination, and it can focus down Xin Zhao quite easily because Xin Zhao doesn't really have an escape. You can just block him with Trundle, Galio can catch up, you just focus him, ignore the LeBlanc, and just open up on the Xin. So, Impunity have a decent shot at the 2v2, but if Mission and Hana are able to get on the map first, I do like their mobility, their burst damage. That's going to be the main impact and the main decider on the game for me, or else the side lanes, for the most part, they're going to be rather peaceful.
I'll have to keep an eye on the junglers and the mid for both sides this game. Impunity looking to try and add to a win streak rather than suffer another loss at the end of their round robin. J-Team looking to crawl back into that top 4. We'll have to see who is able to take it when we get loaded up into this game. I feel like there's a bit of a chip on Impunity's shoulder. There's been pressure for this team. I think they were one of the... They were probably the team that I think most underwhelmed so far in this split. It's a harsh thing to say, but they lost a number of games that they weren't really expected to. They finally got their win. We'll see if they get some swagger back. I like what they're bringing out here. They're making it work with Moonblack's champion pool, it seems. But I guess you have to deliver a W before you're going to convince enough people to be believers, right?
Yeah, I definitely have to agree with you. I personally thought that Epic and Moonblack would be a sizable upgrade over what we had in the last bit between CYH coming in. But unfortunately, Moonblack is rather inconsistent depending on his champion pool. We'll have to see if his Galio fares even better. I will say one other point about Impunity's composition as we go on to the riff right here is that they have a very strong early Drake team fighting core, even though Camille might be more of a split pushing champion because she synergizes so well with Galio on just going on targets. It's actually very easy to start a crowd control chain on that Drake where you have the Chains of Corruption coming in and the Glacial Fissure coming in on the backside of it as well. So, Impunity, even if they do let the mid jungle slide, they still have something to look for around the 6-minute mark when Drake contests are a big thing. And I also like what they're doing right here, setting up a trap for Hana potentially to poke in, and Hana respects the Braum and keeps his distance. So we'll touch on that later, but for now, let's take a look at the runes coming in. Pretty standard across the board. The only thing I'd really point out here is Moonblack going for the Aftershock rune instead of the Predator rune. So it does mean that this is more of a teamfight focused rune. It's not trying to use Predator to out-roam the LeBlanc. It's actually looking for more of that Drake fight that we were talking about where it's a 5v5 scenario.
Right, so definitely seems like he'll be maybe at least a little more defensive in the early stages of the game, but any chance of shenanigans is going to get snuffed. Hana does respect, as you mentioned, the Braum up towards the top side rather than going for the invade, just heads down to get on his red start. We'll be matched by Epic in this one, and definitely keeping an eye on Epic. He is our resident Trundle player, and it's always an interesting champion, right? Because his ultimate does change a lot of the calculus of how you really want to play that game, and he's got a lot of good sustain. He doesn't. I mean, the hard CC is the pillar, right? It's an interesting piece of CC because it really is just terrain focused, but there's a lot you can do with it that people don't always think about.
Yeah, and it actually has really good synergy with Camille. Part of the reason that you see Trundle and Camille so much is because it's actually very easy to chase down targets past the midway point. Usually you don't have terrain in the midway point of the top lane, so Camille can't really use her hook shot. But with Trundle, you could actually drop the pillar and still have Camille use the hook shot on the pillar to catch up. So that gank is something that we can look forward to. However, I have to say I'm not a huge fan of the Trundle. The big problem with Trundle is that he has a very, very slow clear. So if you don't use his dueling power to make sure the enemy jungle falls behind, you actually automatically fall behind. So it's kind of funny, but essentially Trundle is a champion where if you just farm out with the other jungler, then you have put yourself in a ditch, and it's actually really hard to climb out of. So we'll see if Impunity utilizes Epic and gets him that fight with Hana where he can really shine.
Yeah, bit of a risky choice, and that's probably one of the reasons we don't see it quite as often outside of Epic or outside of this league as much. Hana will be the one who's making moves towards the river, though. As you mentioned, we do want to keep an eye always on these junglers. Even if it's just to secure Scuttle Vision, something could happen at some point.
It's definitely what we're looking for, but I really like the pathing here from Hana. It's a standard path with the leash. He's going to avoid Epic completely, which I think is quite beneficial on the side for J-Team. As we did talk about, I still give Xin Zhao a little bit more leeway when it comes to scaling up into the late game and getting more done for his team in general. So having that first clear where he doesn't run into Trundle, he secures both of his Scuttle, and Rest still stays safe at the same time. I definitely think it's a small win for J-Team early on.
Yeah, and speaking of Rest, Rest is having such a great time just bullying Top King on this game plank right now, keeping the Camille locked up under tower. We saw a little bit of trading early on where it was just excellent barrel placement and timing. And this is one of those things Gangplank can do. He's just really annoying to deal with, especially if you're a melee champion.
Yeah, early on, especially when you know your own jungler is clearing towards the bottom side, there isn't much that Camille can do. She has to go up close and personal up against the GP to get enemy damage down. And she knows that Xin Zhao is around this area, so we expect Top King to play incredibly safe. But later on, Camille still has a lot of good chances against the Gangplank. You know, GP can't really cleanse away the Hextech ultimatum. You can still force duels onto him. And later on, you're going to be a split push threat regardless, just because of the scaling aspect. Now we finally do have Epic heading towards the top side, but I really love what J-Team has done here. We saw Hana invade into the jungle and drop a ward down. So, you know, Rest is going to be incredibly safe here. There should be no scenario where he dies. As I say that, I'm getting a little bit worried.
He runs a little slower, and that means Top King can start to cut him off. There's the pillar. He might be forced to use a flash here. Actually, it's going to be Top King that has to flash. Rest just straight up takes the 1v2.
That was such a good bait coming out. He read Top King like a book. He knew that Top King would continue to chase after the hook shot missed. So I love what Rest did right there. He really sold it so incredibly well, acted like he didn't know Epic was coming, and then wasted maximum resources away from Impunity, which then allows JT to get this objective completely free on the bottom side.
Yeah, he even got us, man. What a great bit of acting right there. And to top it off, Rest doesn't even have to burn his flash in the engagement. Nerves of Steel holding on.
Yeah, that was great play. Knew how to play it on the nice edge, kept himself incredibly safe, got the resources, and now Epic is in he's in a very awkward situation where I feel like as a Trundle, you know, you don't get any skirmishes going pre-6. That's always a feel bad. You don't get any ganks with the Camille hook shot, and this is where the phase where I feel like J-Team getting a free Drake, it also really hurts Impunity, because it means that there's one less opportunity for Impunity to get that big team fight that we were talking about with the Cannonball combo, with the Chains of Corruption on that as well. So they miss out on a chance to utilize that Wombo combo and the crowd control chain.
Yeah, and unfortunate for Impunity, just kind of feeling a little bit of a burn here, and not getting that dragon. You said it was a team that really could shred through those dragons early enough on, and always an important objective. Man, Top King just keeps getting punished by Rest here. Moonblack even getting chunked out by Mission. Didn't see how that one happened. And it just starts to feel like a J-Team game where they just get these little advantages. They're not going to go for the throat. They're not going to get the lethal necessarily, but what they will do is they will just slowly get more resources than you and deny you objectives. And once again, Mission, you know, he plays on the edge. He knew Epic was around, and he didn't care.
I think the problem here from J-Team is that, for Impunity, is that they don't really have a bottom half of the map or the mid lane 2v2 that can trade back effectively against J-Team. So whenever the jungle leaves the top side, Top King is on an island. He can't really trade anything, but we have a big bot skirmish coming in. Never mind. I'll continue.
Yeah, Woody was in, Woody was out.
Hana has done a really good job at just going to the top and tracking Rest. Just as I say that, though, we do have the TP.
Yeah, that's going to be the Cannon Barrage after the Camille ultimate as well. Ooh. And Top King is going to get away with it. So is Rest. I can't believe we didn't get first blood out of that.
Oh my god, this is so well played from Rest. If you watch when he uses his W, he actually holds it to the very last second to get maximum HP from it, and also baits the rest of Camille and Galio to stay on him inside the Cannon Barrage for the maximum amount of time. That was incredibly well played. and it looks so controlled. Even though he went down to, I think it was below 50 HP, which is 1 auto attack range from dying, he still had that completely unfazed. Meanwhile, Hana messes up a blue handoff. So kind of a stark contrast here, but man, I cannot heap up enough praise for Rest.
Yeah. This is your PSA, everybody. Make sure you eat your oranges. It's very good for you, especially if you are an inch from death, it turns out.
True.
Gotta get that vitamin C.
Catch scurvy here. And in the meantime, Impunity still have this Herald on lockdown. I don't think you can really contest with Smurf being on position already.
Hana's forced to ult just to stop that. Now Rest is going to try to set something up. Something a little sneaky is happening here, I should say. That's going to be the smite steal from Hana. And now it's going to be Impunity that are forced away. What just happened? That's highway robbery.
Oh, that was so painful to watch from Impunity's side. They actually made the extra rotation. Smurf was in, so that was a 4v3, and they also forced out Hana so early. They got his ultimate, and when if you look at Rest coming in from the top side, he missed everything. He tried his barrel chain, didn't land, and that was a perfect situation for Impunity to just walk away with the objective, and they lose the smite fight. So, oh, that's gotta hurt. They actually sunk a lot of resources into that one.
Yeah, they did. J-Team just walking away with everything in this early game right now. The gold lead is not massive. There are no kills that have happened at all in the 10 minutes of this game, but it has just been J-Team, for the most part, just outplaying on objective play. And I think Rest again, just feeling himself a little bit here. He's confident. That barrel chain, now he's on the 1v1 up against Top King. And this is where Gangplank starts to take off here. It's a huge CS advantage as he just forced Top King away from so many minions. This Camille is going to have a really hard time getting into the split push or even the team fight phase of the game, it seems.
And I also want to point out the CS discrepancy between Trundle and Xin Zhao. Xin Zhao, ever since the rework, he actually clears quite well. And compare that to Epic, who had a failed gank top, who then had a failed Herald, and is basically relegated out of this game. Like, he is so far behind at this point. He's 6 camps behind compared to someone like Hana, a level down. And despite Trundle being a great duelist, he's not coming back from that sort of a deficit. And this is what I mean about the early clear path from Hana being so smart, because he avoided Trundle completely. He actually had completely different trade routes. And right now, Hana is willing to open up on Epic, which is probably so bad for his health.
Ooh, okay, maybe just a little bit, and we're finally going to get ourselves first blood as the burn came away from Hana there. Meanwhile, Hana tries to go in and get another deletion, takes down Blaze before Impunity can respond. We got ourselves a big old brawl in the river, spilling over into bottom lane. Lil V forced to flash back under his own tower and tries to turn some damage. Top King was thinking about going in once more. That's going to be Woody. In and out, just barely avoiding the winds of war, and Top King tanking a lot of damage from turret shots. It is just a really messy skirmish, but J-Team walk away with the 2-for-1.
And I want to point out that in that fight itself, it actually was a 5v4. We had the TP being used from the top lane, and J-Team still get the better trade, which I just find absolutely ridiculous. There's no way that Hana should have gotten 2 kills there, but he did. So congratulations to the Xin Zhao. And I think we could say for sure now that the Trundle versus Xin Zhao sort of counterpick, quotes, did not work out.
This is what happened to start things off. We saw what happened with Hana earlier, but it was 2 different fights. And then Hana is like, all right, you know, I'm going to die, but at least I can take one of you with me. Top King flashes. Woody somehow lives through all of this. I honestly don't understand how that Recon can be so slippery. But you know what? It does happen every once in a while. Woody even goes in for seconds, still gets out with the shield and the battle dance, and they nearly get Top King for all of that.
Yeah, that's
now they're going to be able to secure Dragon.
Unfortunately, Blaze actually did not use any of his summoners. He had his heal up, just didn't think that Hana would be able to kill him in an instant. So, really good on Hana holding on. I think he probably did hold on to his Iron Spike width, and that's what got him the extra kill. But congratulations to him. He gets a 2v1 in a 4v5, and not much more you can ask for in that situation. And J-Team really getting away with murder so many times and getting away with full objective control. And if you look at this game, it just feels really bad because you have a Trundle that is just falling off a cliff, and Impunity have not been able to get into that 5v5 and make use of their layered crowd control at all.
Yeah, Impunity just haven't been able to really execute on the conditions they wanted to set up for themselves. And it's good on J-Team to really deny a lot. I think this is something that this team does really well, is I think they identify enemy teams and play very well to try and counter them. It's just when they get kind of thrown for a loop and, you know, that counter strategy doesn't work out so well, they seem to be a little bit lost. But when they're in control of a game, they're very happy. And right now, Rest very much in control of this top lane. Top King is in danger of losing his tower imminently, I would say. All of the plates are going to go for Rest as he was soloing on it. Look at the damage there. They're setting up for the Hana dive. Top King just trying to dance around and stay alive. Hextech ultimatum into the Galio ultimate. Rest is not getting away, but I don't know if he wants to right now. As Hana tags in, Mission goes for the cleanup. And now they've even got Moonblack locked under tower. This is going from bad to worse for Impunity.
Yeah, and on the other side, Epic isn't really getting much done on the bottom. Their trade's a lot slower. Let's see if they can get a kill.
Looking for Lil V. They might be able to get that stun. The Braum proc will come in, and Blaze will get a kill. Exhaust gets slammed down, but Smurf takes way too many tower shots, and he's forced to stopwatch. Woody was trying for the cheeky feather to get him. But yeah, definitely a lot less bang for the Impunity buck.
Yeah, because Impunity had to play a 3v2, and usually 3v2 is defendable for most bottom sides. So we did see the earlier tower going down from J-Team in that instance. It's still a winning trade for J-Team, but you could probably nitpick that, you know, in that case, Lil V should have stayed alive. You kind of know that Impunity only has one out in that situation, and that's the all-in-you on the bottom side. So yeah, if I'm nitpicking, I would say that J-Team could have played this a little bit better, but overall, still a favorable trade for them.
Yeah, Chains of Corruption don't even land. I think this maybe gives them a little bit of confidence as you now see Woody just going for the two-man quickness. Yeah, they step back up again. Not 100% sure what they were thinking. Maybe they thought they could full defend turret because it's so healthy, but either way, despite maybe a handful of mistakes, yeah, there's the counter engage. Lil V not really going anywhere. Cleanse maybe would have probably helped him right about now. He got taken very low. I don't know.
Yeah, they definitely should have backed out when the wave was coming in, and they needed to respect the double flashes still up on Trundle and Braum. However, as we said, J-Team still get the better end of the trade. They surge ahead from a 3k gold advantage now to a 6,000 gold advantage. And I think this is where we need to see Impunity actually be very forceful in this situation. You can't really sit back and wait for Camille to scale. She's never going to get ahead of this gameplay. From this point, if you look at the gold lead right now, Gameplank is 2,000 gold ahead of Camille. So the split push Camille strategy is out the window. What you need to do is you need to find that Hail Mary 5-man into maybe a 4-man or a 3-man on J-Team's side. So you need to be super forceful and super aggressive when it comes to finding these team fights. Make sure you use that Galio, that heroic entrance for some sort of a catch in order to get back into the game.
Yeah. So far, J-Team pushing way into the jungle. A little bit of a suboptimal Rift Herald use by them, though. They just kind of slam Shelly down, and she just stands there like, where tower? But J-Team's still managing to keep the pressure on this game. Lil V, we haven't really talked about him as much outside of, him dying. This Jin's certainly been serviceable. The 2v2 stayed pretty even most of the game. I love to see those big curtain calls, but that's not necessarily what he's here for, right? He's just trying to provide extra fire.
I think the most important thing about Lil V's play so far is actually his setup. He did go for the cleanse, and that just meant that Impunity, we saw multiple times where Epic was on the bottom side, and J-Team was actually just bullying out Top King, and there was nothing Epic could do. He really couldn't tower dive, and even if the Chains of Corruption did land, Lil V could just get out of it scot-free. So the most important thing is J-Team understanding that they can just focus down on one side of the map, and then deny everything on the other side to keep ahead.
Tower will get taken by J-Team down bottom finally, so that does crack all of the outers. And once again, with the Dragon coming up, Hana in prime position to do this, and Hana's just honestly shown us a masterclass of how to play against something like a Trundle. As you mentioned in the early stages, just fully avoiding him. And then basically being able to duel it out. Looking very good on the Xin, showing why it is such a powerful champion still here on 11.14, and why it deserves so much high priority. That will be Cloud Soul point coming in for J-Team as they continue their stretch of getting all the objectives.
I've got to say, I've also been a Trundle main myself. I loved playing him when the build was actually rushing for Titanic Hydra because you had that
Oh boy.
AoE to clear.
Did you play him top lane though?
No, I didn't play him top lane. I think top
Okay,
lane
I'm thinking
is
way back
really
in the
gone.
day, like season 4. It used to be. Do you remember when it was all like Trundle, Shyvana, like Rush Blade of the Ruined King,
Yeah,
and
that
then
meta
that would
was
determine
fun.
who would win? That was when I
That meta was
started
really fun.
casting League. That was a while ago.
I do think him jungle is a lot stronger, but honestly, with the build changes and now going for Divine Sunderer, which means that he only has single target damage, it feels kind of painful. In an era where you're going up against Rumbles, where you're going up against Mundos that can clear a lot faster, you really need a great early game to justify this pick. And if you don't get it, this is kind of what happens.
Hana goes in, and he knows he's got the team at his back. It's going to be the Gangplank volley coming down, but it's not going to be enough to find any kills. Not that J-Team necessarily need them right now. Mission going in, tagging Top King, and is out. They're just letting the minions do the work, and it just feels like it's a slow push, war of attrition, squeezing Impunity. They don't need to get the kills, but they will slowly but surely get the objectives.
Yeah, and J-Team, they can heal themselves up. They have the Gleaming Quill, they have an Ocean Drake here, so these sort of skirmishes, you can tell by their HP bars, they really haven't been dissuaded whatsoever. But this might be Impunity's chance. They're paying out Mission in the mid lane. They could go for the 5v4, but they have to be super aggressive on this one. And I think they need to focus Hana. Hana's probably the only target that's much easier to lock down compared to everyone else. That does have the cleanse. You know, there's essentially double cleanses here. And you also have Woody with a lot of mobility. But they don't find their
there's
target.
The curtain call. Yeah, they needed a wombo of a combo, didn't find it, and now they're sent scurrying back to their base. Lil V just opens up the curtain call for, honestly, just dispersing all of Impunity. And, you know, we talked about in the pick and ban how this could very much be a pick composition. J-Team have played it like a poke composition. Hana goes in just to scare them away.
And they don't even go on him. They're kind of afraid of those plays. All I'm asking for Impunity this game is just to get one Hail Mary play down. I feel like J-Team is actually one of those teams that you can sort of surprise with ultra-aggressive play. We have seen Machi do this to them before and get wins back despite very large deficits. So, you know, if Impunity, they want to pull the trigger, they have to pull it fast. And another thing about J-Team is, if I look down their composition, it's actually pretty hard to get a single pick. Because you have a cleanse coming down from Lil V, you have Crescent Guard that denies a lot of engage, and the rest of the members are actually ultra mobile. So I think their best bet is actually to open up with Hextech Ultimatum on Lil V, something he can't cleanse away from, and maybe start from there.
Yeah, that makes sense. You know, it does delete a lot of the damage. It's a little harder to catch somebody like a Mission, even though, oh, hello, speaking of catch. Epic didn't expect to see Woody and Mission hanging out in his jungle right now, and they're even going to set up with the Jhin. That's going to be the hero's entrance coming in to try and save it, but I don't think that's going to be enough. Mission opens up with the finisher, and now Blaze should fall as well. Hana just keeping Smurf and Top King locked up as Moonblack is chased away by Rest. Rest flashes to follow him. Are they just going to ace Impunity? I think they will.
Yeah, very clean ace coming out from J-Team. You know, Impunity just caught in a bad position, and they actually spent the heroic entrance to safeguard Epic.
Oh my.
In that sort of a
Rest.
situation, I actually think the correct play was to let Epic die and save your ultimates for an engage. You don't really want to use your wombo combo defensively, and Rest even does the cheeky play, goes in the base to cut the wave so that Mission has more alone time on the bottom side. That's just
now you know that they're just styling. Like that.
Yeah,
this is what's happening right now. Woody and Mission catch Epic. You know, the defensive Galio ultimate, the hero's entrance to try and tag in. I like what they're going for. They're just so far behind, and Blaze, he gets cut off by Hana, and then there's nothing that Impunity can do. They go scurrying.
Yeah, I think this was incorrect from Impunity in terms of a
Top
team
King
shot
failed
call
his
perspective.
flash.
Oof. They expended double summoners from Top King, which means most of his engage and flanking potential is already gone, and that's your comeback mechanic. So they threw everything at J-Team in a moment where I felt like J-Team decidedly had the lead already. It didn't work, and now they have no tools to actually fight off J-Team. J-Team can do whatever they want on the map, honestly, because there is no answer coming from Impunity.
Yep. They find Epic very close to where they killed him last time. Send him flashing over the wall, and now Dragon Soul there for the taking if they want it. And they're just going to be very leisurely. This is like an all-you-can-eat J-Team buffet right now. It's just a little bit of everything is coming down from the kitchen, and they're just grabbing a little bit of what they want here, a little bit of what they want there, and they're doing it at their own pace. This is very much J-Team in full control and not rushing it.
Yeah, definitely is the case here. And I think a very important concept for when you are actually behind in the game is to know what your win conditions are. You have to look for a big 5v5 where you pick off targets. Top King trying to bait, but Rest is like, I'll take 1v2. Fine, I'm totally okay with this.
I'll kill Smurf too if I have to. He's still chasing. This is what the game has turned into. Rest is like, that's fine. I got this. Now you guys keep going. He's got a 2-level advantage on Top King and a 5-level advantage on Smurf.
Yeah, he doesn't care whatsoever, so I think Impunity, they have to think to themselves, what are our actual win conditions in this spot and how do I play towards it? So a lot of times in those situations, you have to recognize that your jungle and your support, when you're this far behind, they are going to die because they need to get vision on the map. And when they die, what is your response? A lot of times the correct answer is actually to conserve your energy, keep your summoners to yourself, and then look for a winning play later on. I feel like Impunity, they didn't go for that. They still wanted to try in a bad situation. And frankly, if you don't get rewarded directly after, you make the situation a lot worse. I feel like this game is pretty much in the bag at this point.
Yeah, so the win condition for Impunity becomes go next fast. Oh boy.
I'm not sure in go next fast really matters. I think slow is okay as well. Like,
that's fair. Yeah, you can take the time if you want. J-Team aren't looking to close it just yet. They are looking to get that Baron. Woody, he throws down the quickness.
We have seen some steal these days.
We have seen a couple. J-Team, I think they're wise to that. They realize maybe they're not shredding it fast enough. In goes Mission. They wanted the fight after all, and they look for a pincer. Hana opens up the 1 kill. Smurf is going to not be able to walk away from that one. Meanwhile, Top King gets into the back to pick off Woody, but it is just a consolation prize. Hana did die in all of that, so they actually got a little bit more than it looked at first glance. But now it looks like Impunity's fight is out of steam, and Epic is going to fall to Lil V. It ends up being a 4-for-2 Clement, and that, honestly, one of the better fights we've seen from Impunity.
That was a disgusting layering of crowd control coming in from J-Team. They tagged everyone down with Woody, and then they layer it on top with Cannon Barrage. So very beautiful team fight on the side for J-Team. I felt like they could have waited a little while longer here, but, the battle dance from Woody still does his job, even though he definitely misplays on the ultimate side. Let's watch this again. Mission comes in with the Distort, gets a 2-man, and then you have the Cannon Barrage on the backside with just Rakan going in and dealing a lot of damage. They only lose the support in this. Okay, so the jungle does go down as well, which does mean that it takes J-Team a little bit more to turn back onto the Baron. They're not going to get it on that first attempt. They only get the inhibitor towers and the kill. So Impunity, at the very least, they still preserve their chances at getting a good Baron steal going down. It's kind of a funny moment as we see the prevalence of zombie ward after the buffs right here. A lot of zombies being placed around.
So many. And yeah, all jokes aside, Impunity, they have a chance to come back into this if they can get that steal. They have a chance if they can find those fights. The problem is, they're not the ones that are dictating the action here. It's Moonblack that gets caught, does get the taunt. Here's the counter-engage coming in, and this is maybe the chance for them to shine. If they can find something, Hana, though, turns in onto Moonblack. Cannon Barrage still firing down. Woody goes in, tries to land onto the quickness,
get the first kill,
but Blaze will take him down. Can Impunity turn this right now? They're looking for it. That's going to be Lil V going golden, but Impunity have run out of steam, and Top King is running away from his base.
Ooh, that was pretty close for them. Now Top King is on 1 sliver of HP. Can he make it?
Lil V looking for the shot, and that's going to be it. You hate to see it. J-Team are just too far ahead. I like what Impunity brought there. The counter-engage, it looked like they might have had it, didn't quite connect on the CC they needed. And unfortunately, this is just where the gold differential, the item differential, the everything differential comes into play.
Yeah, Impunity actually had a pretty good start on that fight, but unfortunately, they weren't able to land most of their crowd control, so J-Team was able to back out and then regroup and reset the entire fight. We saw that Lil V really wasn't touched throughout the entire ordeal, was able to chase forward and just get all the targets down. And this is your rest special. whenever the game feels like it's over, Rest will actually challenge your team to a 1v4, and he honestly doesn't care if he dies or not. I will say I want to see Rest get punished for this, but I'm not sure it's going to happen this game.
I didn't see who got the shutdown gold for it, but everyone else on J Team will at least get the Baron buff. Teleport in here from Mission down to the bottom side, try and keep the push going. Inhibitors on 2 lanes are destroyed, but Impunity are hanging on here, and we have seen that they at least have an ability to fight. It keeps getting harder and harder to pull off.
For a split second there, I actually thought that was Rest coming back for seconds. He's like, I've done the 1v4, now let's try the 2v8. But that was just Mission trying to preserve the wave right here. We're going to get another glimpse at this team fight. Felt like J-Team actually did not get a very good start to this fight, so Impunity had a good chance, but unfortunately when they came in, they weren't able to get a lockdown onto the backline. And most critically, Lil V actually stays alive this entire time. Nothing touches him in this entire phase. We didn't really see the Chains of Corruption. We do get Top King coming out, but Lil V actually cancels out the Hextech ultimatum with the stopwatch. Beautiful play from him, gets him out of dodge completely. They chase down the kill, and that does mean the Baron buff for them again. And now we have another situation where, okay, I'm actually feeling a little bit dicey about this one. We have seen teams in the LPL just throw the game because they go for Elder Dragon when they have a massive lead.
Looks like they maybe wanted to turn the fight, though, but the Elder is still aggroed in all of this, and those are a lot of low health bars as you see Mission going in, try for the deletion. Lil V will start by opening up not 1, but 2 kills, and looking for even more here. It's going to be Epic going golden to delay the inevitable as he tries to finish off Mission, but the ace will come in, and Lil V will pick up a triple, and that should close out the game.
We also get the trademark emote from the entire J-Team team, the scream on top of the rift, not on top of a bridge this time, and they make it look so incredibly easy. That is a play where I feel like it's a little bit of unnecessary risk, but they're too far ahead at this point. Impunity, they get the stop on the current call, it just doesn't matter. We don't even really see Top King on top of the Jhin whatsoever. He just doesn't have enough HP to make it too far behind. J-Team closed this one down with a 3-1 kill lead.
Yeah, J-Team just got so far ahead. It was compounding on just compounding plays, not a lot of crazy kills. We had a very late first blood in this game at 10 minutes, but it didn't matter. J-Team were able to just grab the little advantages, play to their own pace. Sure, they had a little bit of fun with it, and I think there were moments that they maybe allowed opportunities for Impunity to come back into the game, but it just felt like there wasn't a whole lot that they could do. They needed engages that got into the backline. As you mentioned, Lil V stayed safe so many times. Maybe the one time in lane. I don't think we really saw him die outside of that.
And the scary thing for me is that J-Team is winning these games just off of Rest and Hana. Like, Mission, we didn't get to see Mission at all this game. Like, he was basically non-existent for the first 20 minutes, and Mission might still, in my estimation, is probably still the best player. So, J-Team is able to just dust off the lower part of the bracket right here with such relative ease. This was honestly much more of a macro game from my perspective. They had great jungle pathing earlier on. They forced a lot of bad situations for Top King. I don't think Top King lost his lane because he's mechanically that much inferior to Rest, but because he knew that the jungle wasn't there. And J-Team did a very good job tracking Epic throughout his entire pathing. We saw that Krug ward on the top lane, making sure he was on the other side of the map, and then when he came back, Rest played it to AT. That was so beautiful to watch. He actually tricked out the flash coming in from Top King's
It was some great acting.
It was incredible to watch, and on the second attempt where Epic tried to snowball a Camille once more, he got out again on less than 50 HP, which is just mind-boggling that he's able to play these matchups on such a razor's edge.
Yeah, he knew the limits extremely well, and I think J-Team really identified that was going to be the lane they wanted to play through early on, right? Because they knew that the mid lane, as you mentioned, it was a LeBlanc facing into a Gallia that probably wasn't going to have as much interaction as you would have liked. The bottom lane, they just matched range with the Jhin. And I think when J-Team gets the lane setups that they want, they feel very comfortable. Like, watching this game, it seemed like they just kind of slow cruised in a lot of ways, and then when they finally started turning up the gas, it was very much like, okay, we can have some fun with it. You talked about the rest special where he decides to make things a little spicier and maybe give an opportunity, but it was all just a bait at the end of the day. And J-Team just made it look relatively easy. Unfortunately for Impunity, they fall down. They lose another game here at the end of their first round robin, and will only be 2-7. That being said, I think this team does look better than they did a couple of weeks ago. Not just from the win yesterday, but just because, honestly, they just seem to have more of a coherent game plan. This time they couldn't execute on it, but J-Team I think that's because J-Team had a better sense of the map.
Yeah, I think what I've seen from Impunity so far is that they have one style on how to play the game. They know how to do a pretty good 4-1 in the later phases and rely on Blaze to carry them through with things like Kaisa and the Aphelios. But in terms of an early game aggressive strategy, I'm not yet convinced that Impunity can pull through. I feel like they were a little bit timid in finding engages when they had a small deficit and they didn't really know when to pull the trigger, judging by how they basically threw everything in when Epic got caught out, when they really should have just let Epic die. Like, losing a 0-4, 0-3 Trundle isn't that much of a loss, to be absolutely honest. So I have yet to be confident in Impunity running this composition, but we'll see in the future if they can improve on their early tempo comps. And to no surprise, Rest is going to be your MVP. 6,000 gold ahead of his opposition. That's 2 completed items, and he just carried this game with his own mechanics and his acting, with his sense of where everyone else was on the map.
And good guy Rest, making it a little easier for the statisticians so that you can actually calculate the KDA properly by donating that one death when he decided to dive very deep into the backline, but well earned. I think Rest was definitely the highlight of this game, and I'm excited to see what comes next for J-Team. We'll be going on a quick break, and we will return with more of the PCS after this, so don't go anywhere.